She went live that night, holding a forged clause and claiming my late son's fortune as her own. I didn't scream. I called the judge. By morning, her show turned into evidence, and silence became my sharpest ally. But that was only the beginning. The morning air still carried the taste of salt and rain when I stepped out of Silas Bowman's car. St. Andrew's AME Church looked older than grief itself, red brick darkened by the damp. I had pressed Marcus's black suit the night before, smoothing the scuffed cufflink he'd insisted on keeping since college. My hand shook only once when I folded it. Inside. Fans turned slow, elders humming, "Blessed Assurance." Someone squeezed my shoulder, whispering, "Baby, you hold on now." I smiled, tight, polite. I've never been one for falling apart where the Lord can see. I touched the mahogany casket with the back of my hand, breathing steady. "I'm Lorraine Vance," I told myself silently. Mother, widow, the one who kept the lights on. Or, Marcus once told me, "Mama, when I go, don't let them rewrite me." I promised. Halfway through the second hymn, the sound came, heels on stone, sharp and hollow. Heads turned in sequence, like a wave shifting direction. I didn't have to look. The smell of her perfume, synthetic lilies, told me enough. Isolde Klein, in black silk that screamed for attention, sunglasses still on indoors, floated past ushers like she owned sorrow. She chose the second pew, directly behind me. That seat wasn't tradition. It was a statement. She didn't bow her head, didn't even pretend. I saw ringless fingers, a clutch too structured for mourning. She wanted an audience, and she just found one. I whispered in my mind, "Don't give her your face, Lorraine, and give her the wall." The Reverend's voice faded at the closing hymn. Before anyone could exhale, Isolde rose. Her heels clicked down the aisle toward the altar. She placed both hands on Marcus's casket. "Marcus and I were never truly done," she said, her voice low but traveling. "Under Georgia law, I have standing. That money, those $33 million, should come to me." A ripple of sound tore through the church. "Lord, have mercy." "You don't say that here." A fan clattered to the floor. I smoothed my funeral program and slid it back into the pew rack, the paper soft from my fingers. Reverend Mabel moved forward, but I raised my hand slightly. "Let her finish," I said. Isolde turned, scanning faces like a performer checking her audience. "Lorraine just kept the bank book," she said, almost sweet. Marcus needed a partner. The gasp hit me like wind. Phones rose discreetly. Every whisper became an echo. She was rewriting history in real time. I didn't react. I cataloged her lies like receipts, dates, missing years, 10 of them. I leaned toward Reverend Mabel. "We will not brawl in God's house." My voice was soft but cut clean. Inside, a colder thought pulsed. "We will answer in the right room." "Miss..." Deidre leaned in, her peppermint breath steady. "She bold, but God sees." I nodded. Silas shifted beside me, murmuring, "You good?" I gave a small smile. "I'm good." My eyes drifted toward the back. Her lawyer sat there, pen moving across a pad. Premeditated. I noted the time, the hymn, the witnesses. Evidence was always patient. When the pallbearers came forward, I stood. "Thank you, sons," I said, voice anchored. We walked the aisle. Outside. Magnolia blossoms leaned heavy after the rain. Isolde tried to catch my shoulder near the steps. "We can settle this like adults," she purred. "Then act like one," I said quietly. "Not in my church." She blinked, smile wobbling. I turned toward the path that curved around the side. the one Marcus and I used to take after service. Truth likes daylight and paper, I told myself. From behind. I felt the presence before I saw it, a quiet shadow. Carter Red, retired detective, my old friend, stood at a respectful distance. His badge wallet wasn't open, just visible enough. Isolde's expression cracked, confidence sliding off her like cheap makeup. I didn't turn fully. "Afternoon, Carter," I said. The bells rang once, clear and final. The street went still. We don't shout. We document. By the time we reached Silas Bowman's office, the sun had dipped behind the oaks, leaving the Spanish moss glowing silver. I told myself, we don't argue grief on steps that hold our dead. Silas held the door open, offered sweet tea, his voice soft like Sunday radio. I waved it off. Not today. Carter Red followed, quiet as ever, setting his worn leather notebook on the table like a badge that didn't need flashing. I told them both my ground rules. No porch talk, no press, no loose lips. If anyone asked, we were handling arrangements. My son's name, and the truth attached to it, weren't going to be rewritten again. Silas spread the folders across the table. Last will and testament, codicil, beneficiary schedule, asset inventory. His process was clean, deliberate. Chain of custody, he explained, tapping each label. I nodded and said, if it matters, put it in writing, and keep that writing where daylight can find it. Carter logged every page entering the room, time-stamped in his neat detective hand. When a document left, it would leave signed, sealed, and scanned. That's how order wins quietly on paper. Then Silas slid a thin sheet toward me. This just came in from Isolde's counsel. The page looked wrong before I even read it, slightly off-white, narrower margins, ink that bled blue instead of black. Supplemental marital rights clause, the header claimed. Supposedly signed by Marcus a year before his death. I touched the paper edge. Marcus wasn't even in Savannah then. Silas confirmed it, eyes narrowing. He was in Houston. I've got his travel receipts. Carter's jaw tightened. We'll run a forensic scan, chain it, bag it, seal it. I said, don't wave it yet. Let it hang itself when the time's right. Silas began outlining our next step. Venue control. Probate court first. Keeps the noise low. He recommended Judge Althea Morgan, known for her patience and her dislike for theatrics. I agreed. Right room, right judge, I said. Carter drafted a clean report on the funeral incident. No adjectives, no heat, just facts. We'd file a notice of potential contest, nothing more. In America, I told them, the room you pick decides the story you tell. Silas worked the phones next. Clerk, bank, estate unit, CPA, calm, efficient. I drafted the script myself. We are in verification, direct all inquiries to counsel. When a church friend texted me to set the record straight on Facebook, I typed back, truth doesn't need a post, it needs a docket number. Carter built a list of Isolde's talkers, one loose paralegal, one chatty salon owner, one cousin who films everything. We agreed, no gossip defense. We'd win with transparency, not noise. Then came the timeline stitch. Silas pulled up Marcus's digital calendar. Carter matched it with toll logs and flight data. Every mark said Houston. I opened my fridge photo on my phone, a picture I'd never deleted. Marcus's handwriting on the whiteboard. Houston audit. Back Friday. Dates are bones, I murmured. Lies don't bend bones. Silas's scanner beeped. Timestamps on the addendum didn't match his office records. Carter noted it down, already calling the building's security team for footage from the week of the so-called signing. Next came the money. I authorized soft holds, no distributions until the court confirmed authenticity. Silas called the bank. flagging any caller who used words like spousal rights or emergency access. The CPA suggested transferring liquid assets into protected escrow with dual authorization, my name and counsel only. If you can't print it, I said. I can't trust it, Carter added. And if she pushes it, we call the DA's intake desk. Quietly. Silas's receptionist slipped in with takeout boxes, fried chicken and collards. You need something warm, she said. I smiled. Greece won wars longer than speeches. We ate in near silence. I called Reverend Mabel to thank her for keeping calm earlier. She told me, "The Lord saw how you carried yourself, Lorraine." I just said, "He'll see how I carry the rest." After they left, I pulled Marcus's cufflink from my purse and placed it beside the scanner. Carter looked over. "You kept the lights on. Lore." "We'll keep them on now." I nodded, the weight in my chest turning into purpose. Then Carter's phone buzzed. A text from one of his old contacts. Nothing official, just a whisper. Isolde once left a baby with kin out in North Carolina. No name. No year. I took a yellow pad, wrote boy, circled it twice. "We stay on the will tonight." Silas reminded. I said, "I can hold two truths at once." We dig later, quietly. The scanner finished its final pass. Silas leaned over the monitor. The printer's signature didn't match. Wrong brand, wrong footer. He zoomed in, and we saw it. A faint watermark from a gas station copy kiosk off I-16. I exhaled through my teeth. "She didn't bring law to my church," I said. "She brought a gas station lie." Silas sealed the evidence envelope, dated and initialed it. I straightened in my chair, feeling the same calm I'd taught Marcus years ago. "Tomorrow," I said, my hand resting on the sealed file. "We test the paper in court." Morning light crept through Silas Bowman's office blinds, turning his desk into a battlefield of folders and coffee cups. Carter slid a manila folder toward me, his eyes steady. Inside, 2 birth records from counties straddling the North Carolina border. 1 photo, and addresses that whispered trouble. I didn't flinch. "We separate rumor from proof," I said, pulling a yellow highlighter from my purse. Silas nodded, setting a small whiteboard on the table with 3 lines: probate filing, kiosk verification, clause origin. The man loved structure. I loved results. I told myself what I tell other mothers who've buried sons. We eat the elephant by pages, not bites. The air smelled of printer ink and resolve. Carter read aloud, "Boy, born April 2016, mother I, Klein, father unknown, guardianship by aunt for 11 months. I glanced at the lease copy stapled behind it. Isolde's name. Same apartment complex. Same year. That was the year she disappeared from Marcus's life, leaving him wrecked and silent. "Dates are bones," I murmured, tracing the header with my thumb. "And bones don't bend." Silas started typing requests for certified abstracts, school records, custody confirmations, no doorstep drama, no gossip, just paper, time-stamped. "If she left a child behind," I said, "then she left the truth, too." By 9, we were at the probate courthouse. Polished marble floors, whispers echoing like hymns. Silas filed our notice of contest and motion to secure originals. The clerk stamped them with the thud of judgment. I watched, still as a pew statue. Dignity, not noise. That's how you win wars that outlive the living. Carter hand-delivered the sealed envelope, the fake supplemental clause, to evidence intake. I whispered a small prayer. Let paper be stronger than gossip. The next stop sat 20 miles out, along I-16, a convenience store with flickering fluorescent lights and a rack of faded lottery tickets. The manager blinked when Carter showed his badge. "Y'all about that copier thing?" she asked. Silas showed the subpoena draft, and within minutes, we had logs, 12 single-page copies, time-stamped 48 hours before Marcus's funeral. The footage showed a woman in black, sunglasses inside, folder clutched tight. The tilt of her chin was all I needed to know. "She copied her lie," I said quietly. Silas smiled thinly and left fingerprints made of toner. At the courthouse annex, Silas pulled an old file from 2015, a mediation record. Inside sat a notarized letter, yellowed but intact. The seal was clean, the witness still licensed. In it, Isolde Klein declared she had no future claims upon the estate or earnings of Marcus Vance in exchange for a settlement and debt forgiveness. I felt my spine straighten. That's not vengeance. I thought, that's history standing up. Silas photographed and indexed it. "This," he said, "plus the kiosk proof. She's sunk," I answered. "Not sunk, just seen." We sat back down to plan our next move. "The child?" Carter asked. I shook my head. "We protect him. The court can have the facts. The boy gets peace." Silas began drafting a protective motion in case her lawyer tried to drag minors into filings. I looked out the window toward the courthouse dome. "We don't turn children into exhibits. That's the mother law." An hour later, Silas's phone rang. A smooth male voice, Isolde's attorney, offering an amicable settlement and hinting at media exposure if we refused. Silas stayed calm. "Put it in writing," he said, and hung up. Carter flagged the number, same firm known for tabloid leaks. I laughed under my breath. Old tricks, new suit. By late afternoon, our binders were ready. Tabs for originals, chain of custody, kiosk logs, notarized letter. I tucked Marcus's cufflink inside the cover pocket. It wasn't superstition, it was memory with purpose. "Don't let grief perform," I wrote in my spiral pad. We stepped into the light outside the annex just as a car door slammed. Isolde emerged. Black suit again, but this time with a videographer trailing her. Her lawyer waved like we were old friends. Carter shifted beside me. One step forward, hands visible, calm. I squared my shoulders and said, "Courthouse doors are open. We'll see you inside." The camera light blinked red. I turned my face toward the courthouse seal and let the truth do its own filming. We reached the courthouse just after 9. The marble steps still held the chill from last night's rain. Cameras lined the sidewalk, but I didn't slow. "Cameras can't file motions," I told Silas, and he gave me that half smile that means he's listening. Carter flanked my other side, quiet, always scanning. Isolde stood near the doors in her usual uniform, black suit, sunglasses inside, a mic clipped to her lapel like she was auditioning for justice. Her lawyer whispered into her ear, while a man with a camera circled for the right shot. I didn't look their way. "We'll speak inside the record," Silas said, and I nodded. At the security checkpoint, Carter noted the time, logged the noise, and slipped the sheet into his notebook. I touched Marcus's cufflink in my pocket before stepping through the metal detector. That small, cold circle steadied me. Inside. Judge Morgan called the session to order. Her voice was firm, her tone without decoration. "This is a preliminary validation hearing," she said. "Not a stage." I liked her immediately. Silas opened methodically, walking through the chain of custody, presenting numbered exhibits with the care of a surgeon. Isolde's lawyer spoke next, all soft sympathy, a widow's intent. The spirit of love, but no documentation followed, just air shaped like grief. I thought to myself, probate's about paper, not poetry. The clerk stamped our kiosk exhibit and subpoena notice. The sound echoed like a heartbeat. Then Silas laid out the truth. He placed the original will beside the supplemental clause. Different paper, different ink, different footer. The bluff cracked. When the judge asked who drafted it, opposing counsel hesitated, muttering about a family friend. Unavailable, he added. Silas responded with the notarized 2015 waiver. The room stilled as he read the first line aloud. I, Isolde Klein, relinquish all future claims. The seal gleamed under the courtroom light. I didn't move, didn't smile. Judge Morgan made a note, her pen sharp against the pad. This contradiction will be addressed, she said. Their lawyer requested a recess. The judge granted 10 minutes. In the hallway, Isolde turned to the waiting cameras. Her voice rehearsed, I only want what Marcus meant for me. Carter moved between us and the lens, subtle as a wall. We respect the court, I said once, then shut my mouth. Silas leaned close. They're talking too close to her mic, he whispered. Could be hot. We stood by the bailiff's line until the recess ended. The moment the bailiff called, we went back inside. The feed was already live when we entered. A faint echo cut through the room, her lawyer's own voice, replayed from the hallway speakers. Just say you saw him sign, nobody keeps the kiosk slips. Gasps rippled. The clerk scrambled to mute the feed. Judge Morgan froze, eyes narrowing. Playback, she said. The court reporter read it aloud. Their lawyer stammered about technical interference. Silas stepped forward. Your Honor, we request an ethics notation and a preservation order for all their AV files. The judge agreed, gavel snapping once. You will exchange materials by 5 p.m. She ruled. The room's weight shifted. The air turned clean. Judge Morgan then spoke like a teacher setting order. The original will stay sealed with the clerk. Certified copies only. No loose handling. She scheduled the evidentiary hearing for 3 weeks out. Issues, authenticity, standing, effect of 2015 waiver. She barred any hallway statements involving minors or paternity. When opposing counsel asked for media accommodations, she didn't blink. This is probate, not prime time. The laughter in the back row died instantly. We exited by the staff corridor, escorted by a bailiff. No triumph, just lists. Carter prepared an envelope for the courtroom's audio glitch. Silas outlined next moves. Verify witnesses, lock device IDs, prep cross questions. I called Patricia from the nonprofit, asking her to cover my grief group shift. Duty keeps me breathing, I said. But just as we stepped into the sunlight, Carter's phone buzzed. He showed the screen, a headline screaming, Secret Child Connected to Vance Estate, with a blurred photo that looked heartbreakingly young. Silas cursed under his breath. The timestamp matched the hearing hour. I looked at them both. The courthouse behind us, the world watching. Then we do this the right way, I said, turning back toward the doors. And the long way. By noon, the courthouse felt heavier than it had that morning. Carter held out his phone. The tabloid headline glared up at us. A blurred photo of a child, stolen straight from a private school portal. My stomach dropped, not from fear, but fury. She just broke a judge's order, I said. Silas didn't waste a breath. We file, now. We moved through the courthouse halls like a storm with paperwork. Silas drafted 3 motions at once: enforcement, sanctions, and an order to show cause. Carter attached the screenshots, the metadata, and the URL hash. I signed an affidavit swearing the image was taken without consent. When the bailiff called us in, Judge Morgan's face was granite. This image violates a standing protective order, Silas began. Opposing counsel stumbled in late, mumbling about freedom of speech. I cut him short. This is a child. This is a court order. The room fell silent, except for the scratch of the judge's pen. She moved fast. The platform and byline freelancer were subpoenaed for log preservation. Device imaging orders were approved, phones, emails, all within 72 hours of the leak. Any defiance would mean contempt. Isolde's hands shook, though she tried to smile for the cameras in her head. The judge's tone sharpened. No child identifiers, no insinuations. What next breach? I won't be patient. That was all it took. The temperature in the room dropped 20 degrees. As we stepped out, Carter's phone buzzed again. An encrypted message from a regional bank officer. Need to speak off the record. We met her in a dim alcove near the records room. She was nervous, but steady. Someone offered one of our tellers money for your son's account details 2 weeks before the funeral, she said, sliding a note across the table, cash, no name. But the car matches one registered to Isolde's videographer. My pulse slowed, focused. You kept the security stills? She nodded. Silas asked for them through a protected channel and drafted a sworn statement on the spot. This lines up with her media push, Carter muttered. I thought of my boy's handwriting on those old deposit slips. His life turned into someone else's leverage. By mid-afternoon, the subpoenaed kiosk logs landed in Silas's inbox. Carter overlaid them with our copy of the forged clause. The metadata screamed the truth. The fake document had been printed 3 days after Marcus died. In Jacksonville, not Savannah. The store's cashier, related to Isolde's paralegal. Conflict of interest, Silas murmured. He drafted a motion to disqualify the paralegal and expand discovery. I said quietly, people forget paper has a heartbeat. Today, it spoke. We re-entered court on the emergency calendar. Silas presented the kiosk data and the bribery evidence. Opposing counsel tried to cry, fishing expedition. But Judge Morgan wasn't fooled. She extended discovery and signed off on preservation orders covering the bank, the paralegal's cousin, and the media LLC. Any interference, she warned, and fees will shift. I thanked her directly. Marcus used to tell me, Mama, look folks in the eye when truth's on your side. So I did. The next stop was Savannah PD's cyber annex. A detective showed us that the tabloid upload came from an Airbnb IP, registered to the videographer's assistant. Same night, same timestamp. His social media showed a drink tagged Sav in 912. The detective secured preservation letters while Silas coordinated chain of custody. Carter DM'd the freelancer whose name was on the byline. Her reply came fast. I didn't post that headline. Call me. We had our first crack in their wall. By evening, I was back on my porch, mint tea steaming beside a yellow pad. 3 columns: court, corporate, criminal. I called another grandmother from my support group, warned her to lock her school portal. Carter volunteered the night watch for the evidence drives. I touched Marcus's cufflink in its dish. We do this clean, I whispered. All the way. Then my phone pinged. Isolde was live again. Candles, crocodile tears, and a photo she'd never owned. A revelation, she said. Her paralegal cousin hyped the stream in the comments, linking a signed clause. The page on screen carried our kiosk UID. Proof, caught on camera. I grabbed my keys. We're done watching, I said. We move. The live stream hadn't even finished buffering before I told Carter. Record it, everything. He hit capture, saving every frame and chat line. The camera froze on Isolde's hand. That same forged clause with our kiosk's unique footer. The blue ink footer glared like a confession. I called Silas on speaker. We need a TRO tonight, I said. They'll wipe devices before dawn. His voice came through steady, already moving. Meet me at Chambers, bring that frame. Carter was still parsing the live chat, Jason, flagging the paralegal cousin's comments, hyping proof of promises. I made a quick declaration under oath while my printer hummed beside the coffee pot. No drama, just paper and purpose. By the time we reached Judge Morgan's night docket, the courthouse was running on fluorescent hum and caffeine. Silas laid out our evidence, the frame, the metadata, the matching UID, and explained the forgery's timeline. Opposing counsel dialed in by phone, claiming the clause was a prop. Silas countered with halftone analysis and the Jacksonville store log. The judge didn't hesitate. "Emergency TRO granted," she said. "Immediate surrender of all live stream devices for forensic imaging. Tonight." She listed names one by one. Isolde Klein, her videographer, her assistant, the paralegal cousin. Each one sounded like a door closing. The bailiff called a sheriff's deputy. "Meet them at the Airbnb," the judge ordered. I whispered a quiet "thank you" before we left the room. Outside chambers. Carter patched in the freelancer who'd been listed on the tabloid story. Her voice shook. "That headline wasn't mine," she said. "They uploaded it from their end." She forwarded emails from the Media LLC's account, attachments showing the stolen child photo, and a Venmo payment labeled "Consultant Cousin, Delivery." Carter whistled low. "That ties to the same bank as the bribe," I told her gently. "You'll be safer with a sworn statement and counsel by morning." She exhaled relief and agreed to meet us at dawn. At the coastal Airbnb, porch lights cut through fog like interrogation lamps. The sheriff read the TRO aloud as cameras blinked off inside. The videographer started shouting about First Amendment rights. The deputy replied flatly, "Ma'am, this isn't optional." The assistant fumbled with an SD card. Carter caught the motion before it slipped into a hoodie. "Bag it, tag it, number it," I said, steady as stone. The neutral examiner cataloged every phone, laptop, and drive. Isolde folded her arms. "That paper's mine," she hissed. Silas replied dryly. "Then your property will testify beautifully." Back at the courthouse evidence room, we handed everything over. The clerk logged each device while Carter uploaded the freelancer's PDFs and email chains. The memo line from that payment glowed on screen, time-stamped within hours of the bank bribe. Silas drafted a motion to disqualify the paralegal and compel disclosure of all payments to media partners. I wrote one line in my notebook: "People talk, money sings," near midnight. Judge Morgan called a status check. Silas summarized, "Devices seized, funds linked, UID confirmed." The judge scheduled a hearing for 8 Mem. Sharp. "Any tampering overnight equals contempt," she said. I thanked her again, quietly but clear. This protects a child and a name. On the other end, she only said, "Then rest. You'll need it." Back home, the world was silent except for my teapot. I texted my grief group, "Lock your school portals? Tonight proved why." Carter sat across from me, running a checksum on the evidence copy. "By morning," he said, "they're cornered." I nodded, sipping chamomile. "By morning, we're calm." Before bed, Carter enhanced one last still. On Isolde's fingers, faint blue smudges, thermal paper dye, fresh within hours. He matched the timestamp to 10 minutes before we reached the Airbnb. I looked at the image, the proof glowing cold on the screen, and whispered, "The story writes itself in court." By 7:30, the courthouse steps already smelled of rain and coffee. I walked between Silas and Carter, my hand brushing the cufflink in my pocket, small weight, steadying me. The bailiff taped the night's TRO notice to the door. Opposing counsel arrived late. Eyes red, paper stacks crooked. I greeted no one. The neutral examiner confirmed the seals from last night's seizure. Every barcode matched. In the hallway, the freelancer waited with her attorney, trembling but upright. "Just tell the truth," I whispered, "and we'll handle the noise." She nodded once. Inside, Judge Morgan took the bench at 8 sharp. No wasted motion. She scanned the docket, lifted her eyes, and said, "Let's begin." Silas opened with the live stream. Carter narrated each still, the paper in Isolde's hand, the matching footer from a Jacksonville kiosk, the smudge of blue dye still visible on her fingertips. The judge leaned in, silent. "Ms. Vance," she asked me, "do you recognize this text?" I kept my voice low. "Yes, Your Honor. It's not part of my son's will." Opposing counsel tried for poetry, called it symbolic performance. Silas countered, "Forgery isn't performance. It's perjury, with props." The timestamp over the Airbnb geotag said the rest. Judge Morgan entered the clip into record, labeling it Exhibit J11A through F. Her pen tapped twice, final as a gavel. When the freelancer took the stand, the courtroom shifted. Her voice shook only once. She described the midnight email chain, published before 8 Eastern. The subject read, with a photo of the child in that same clause. Payments moved through an alias, the paralegal cousin's name disguised by a single letter. Silas displayed the headers, routing data glowing blue on the monitor. They said, she read aloud, "It'll rattle the mom before court." Opposing counsel objected. The judge overruled. I met the girl's eyes when she stepped down. No words. Just the kind of look women give each other when the truth finally breathes. Carter followed with the forensic report. The assistant's phone held autosaves of edited images. The videographer's laptop had a folder titled Kiosk Pulls. Then came the letter from the bank's compliance officer, the same routing number, the same credit union. Silas requested a partial unseal so regulators could move. The judge granted it with one warning. If any party deletes data, I will treat it as intent. Across the aisle, Isolde sat rigid, knuckles white. The cousin's name on the exhibit screen hung in the air like smoke. Silas stood again. "We move for contempt, Your Honor." He listed the live stream, the card concealment, the TRO breach. The judge's tone sharpened. "Order to show cause on Ms. Klein, videographer, and assistant." To opposing counsel, she said evenly, "You've let this circus in. You'll help clean it out." When he stammered something about family pain, she cut him off. "Pain doesn't license misconduct." I breathed through my teeth, slow, deliberate. The judge wasn't angry. She was surgical. Then came the call that cracked the room's silence. The trust protector entered with a sealed drive. "Per authorization from the custodian," he said, "the decedent left a message for this contingency." Judge Morgan approved the playback. My son's face appeared on screen, calm, thin, his voice soft but sure. "Mom, if they use my name or my boy to corner you, play this. The trust stands. The revocation is signed. Take care of him and rest." Every sound in the courtroom vanished. The clerk stopped typing. Even the air conditioner paused like it was listening. Silas submitted the notarized revocation, signed 2 weeks before Marcus's last hospital discharge. It revoked the addendum Isolde had paraded. "Do you still claim this clause is real?" the judge asked. Isolde looked down. Her lawyer said nothing. The silence was its own confession. The judge's orders came clean and fast. Continued TRO, extended imaging, disqualification of the paralegal, bar referral prepared, child's identity sealed for life. She wrote it herself. No clerk needed. When the gavel dropped, the room exhaled as one body. I didn't cry. I just sat still, palm over the cufflink, feeling the pulse beneath metal. Outside, on the marble corridor, older women, strangers, met my eyes and nodded. They didn't need to say a word. We all knew what it meant to hold ground quietly. At the steps, the sheriff served Isolde the contempt notice. Carter whispered beside me. They found an open browser tab on the assistant's laptop, kiosk logs, timestamped 9:01. I said softly, "Then the story finishes itself." Isolde tried to smile as the cameras clicked, but it broke halfway across her face. By early afternoon, the courthouse hallways felt quieter, almost emptied of yesterday's noise. I left courtroom 3B with certified copies tucked neatly in a folder, the paper warm from the printer. Silas handed me a short list on letterhead that simply read, "Enforce, then exhale." The sheriff's civil unit confirmed each service. Isolde, the assistant, and the videographer all delivered, all time-stamped. Carter emailed the imaging completion notice, chain of custody numbers consistent to the last digit. Judge Morgan's clerk uploaded the show cause docket, and the state bar's intake confirmed receipt of the cousin's referral packet. I forwarded the no-contact order to the school registrar and HOA security. My gate list was updated before I pulled into the driveway. Speaking softly into Silas's recorder for the file, I said, "This isn't revenge. This is boundary." At Silas's office, the trust protector laid out the revocation instrument, my son's final paper shield. We reviewed the no contest clause, line by line. Silas filed our notice with exhibits and the affidavit of harassment. The clerk's red stamp bled slightly on the edge. Within an hour, an email from the trustee appeared. Isolde's claim was now classified as a contest, automatically forfeiting her interest. No more shares, no residual payout, just legal quiet. I initialed the instruction to proceed with my grandson's 529 plan, his medical trust, and a modest living stipend for me. I didn't smile. I breathed once and touched the cufflink in my pocket. "Marcus," I whispered, "we honored your signature." The freelancer's attorney sent over a joint statement, fabricated clause, paid placement, retraction pending. I approved the phrasing that named no one beyond the record. On my porch, I recorded a 90-second message. No venom, no names. We don't negotiate with harassment. We protect what's sacred and move forward. Carter filed takedown requests citing our exhibits. Platforms flagged the stream as manipulated content. My church circle dropped off casseroles, not gossip. "Feed your peace," one text said. I read a few online comments from older women. "Proud of you for staying still and hitting your mark." That was enough. I closed the app. By late afternoon, the HOA manager met me at the gate. Together we reviewed the updated access list. Just me, my grandson, Silas, Carter, and the trust protector. I signed a trespass affidavit and a revocation of all prior permissions. My estate planner emailed a new draft, a letter of wishes reinforcing what Marcus started. If anyone tries to use the boy as leverage, all communication halts. Counsel takes over. I replaced the small brass chain on my front door myself. The click felt like a hymn. Across the street, the azaleas moved under clean wind. For the first time in weeks, the house exhaled with me. The court notifications rolled in by evening. A $1,000 per day fine for incomplete surrender. By 6, the assistant folded. The state bar escalated the cousin's review to expedited. The media company's lawyer floated a settlement. Silas replied with 3 words: retraction, costs, apology. Opposing counsel's firm reassigned her. I didn't chase updates. I watered my herbs, wiped down the counter, and let the paper do its quiet work. At sunset, we gathered in City Park, me, Carter, Silas, my pastor, 2 widowed neighbors, a candle, a toy car, and Marcus's photo sat on a small table. I spoke of his laugh, his easy faith, his line about the checkbook being just a tool. We announced the Marcus Vance Quiet Courage Scholarship at his high school, funded by me and matched by the trust's giving clause. The pastor read a short verse, The breeze bent the flame but never took it. We waited until it went out on its own. A neighbor touched my hand. "You turned a fight into a fence," she said softly, "and a fence into a garden." I smiled. That's all I ever wanted. Night settled. The doorbell rang once. Through the camera. Isolde stood outside with a man holding an envelope. I pressed 2 buttons, speaker and record. "This property recognizes a no-contact order," I said evenly. HOA patrol lights blinked down the street. They didn't step forward. I slipped my notarized enforcement notice through the mail slot, date stamped. Then I locked the chain. The house fell silent. Later. My phone buzzed, a message from the high school counselor. Would I speak to seniors about boundaries and grief? I looked at the cufflink one last time, set it in the bowl beside my keys, and texted back, "Yes, put me on the calendar. Tomorrow we'd plant rosemary by the porch. Tonight, we rest." The rosemary sprouted by morning, roots gripping new soil. My phone buzzed again, an unknown number. Savannah area code, subject line. Trust amendment, newly discovered copy. I stared at it, pulse steady but curious. Could something my son signed still be out there, waiting to change everything?